Hey guys, what's going on? It's Waseem here from Handsome Smiles, and I just want to thank you for joining me on another fragrance video. Today we're going to be looking at M7 from the house of YSL. This was released in 2002 and it is quite possibly the first ever oud fragrance from a Western mainstream designer house. It was actually the second ever fragrance to be released from YSL when Tom Ford was working there as the creative director. As you can tell by the bottle, this is the pre-reform versions. Was actually the first design of the M7 fragrance. It's recently been repackaged and reformulated and called M7 Oud Absolute. From the research I've done and the little bit of testing I've done in shops, it smells about 90 to 95% similar to this version. If you want to pick up this version, you'll probably have to look at eBay. You can't really pick this one up in shops anymore, but the thing is, on eBay these are now commanding insane prices, and I really don't think it's worth spending that much extra on eBay for this style of the fragrance. I'd really just go for the one in the shops called M7 Oud Absolute, because it's about 90 to 95% similar. So like I've said, released in 2002, classified as an Oriental Woody. The noses behind this scent was two absolute master perfumers, Jacques Cavalier and Alberto Morales. Now, Jacques Cavalier, Alberto Morales have worked for numerous fragrance houses and have been behind numerous classics as well. Like I've said, two absolutely top drawer major perfumers in the game teamed up together to create this scent. To give you a little bit of a background, Jacques Cavalier was the nose behind L'Eau de C'est Pour Homme by Issey Miyake, quite possibly one of the best designer fragrances in the 90s. In recent years he's worked with Zenga and he's released Indonesian Oud, and he's also worked for another fragrance from the house of YSL called Rive Gauche. Alberto Morales, again, a master perfumer. Where do I begin? He's done CK1 by Calvin Klein. He's been behind 212 Men by Carolina Herrera, and he's also been the nose behind one of the most popular men's fragrances of all time, and that is Acqua di Gio by Giorgio Armani. So two of the best perfumers teamed up and created M7. Let's just quickly talk about the notes and then we'll talk about what M7 really smells like. So at the top of M7 you're going to get rosemary, mandarin orange and bergamot. The heart of the fragrance is oud and vetiver, and the base of the fragrance is amber and musk. So those are the notes of M7 by YSL. But what do we get on our skin when you spray this? For me, I don't really get too much development and a lot of change on my skin. I wouldn't say it's a simple fragrance because there's a lot of mysterious hidden quality in this scent, but essentially what I get is, in the opening I get a beautiful smooth sweet rosewood, and along with that rosewood I get a very sweet cherry and a dried tobacco nuance. Now when I've mentioned tobacco, I'm not talking about like a honeyed or a sweetened vanillic tobacco like you'd find in Tobacco Vanille or Pure Havana by Thierry Mugler. The tobacco is like the tobacco leaf. It's very dry, but it works really well with the sweet cherry and that really smooth rosewood. Now the rose, the cherry and the tobacco dry down into this scent, and it's then introduced by this really smooth resinous and really slightly sweet amber accord. And it just, the amber, the cherry, tobacco and the rosewood, the woods that you get in the scent, absolutely superb. Just blends so well together to create such a pleasing, mysterious but essentially a very sexy and alluring scent. Now this is, like I've said, one of the first ever oud fragrances to be released to the Western world, and I don't really pick up massive amounts of oud in this. It's the oud that they're trying to portray in this scent is more of a woody, mysterious woody quality, and it's, to my nose, a very very pleasing scent. It's not a skanky, animalic, fecal, barnyardy oud at all. It's not like a jungle grassy green oud either. The oud that they're trying to portray in this is just a woody accord with some sweet amber, and just has a very alluring, sexy quality. It's one of the sexiest fragrances I've tried. When this was first released by M7, from the research I've done online, I've seen that this wasn't a massive hit. It was actually a flop, and it's only in recent years where M7 has now gained a cult following among us fragrance enthusiasts. And I'm not sure why it was a flop. Maybe the scent profile for the population at the time was just a bit too extreme, a bit too different. You know, at the time, 2002, people were still wearing aquatics, you know, Aqua di Gios, L'Eau de Ciporum, wearing like 212 Carolina Herrera. So they weren't really prepared for like a darker, sexier, woody scent with like a mysterious, slightly Middle Eastern quality to it. Just weren't prepared. Now Middle Eastern oud scents are just so popular now, especially in the designer game. Every single house is now bringing out like an oud equivalent of one of their classic scents, like Hugo Boss has brought out Boss Bottle Oud. You got oud from Gucci Guilty as well. So at the time, people weren't prepared for these dark, mysterious, woody scents, which is why it was a flop at the time. But smelling it now, the scent is just so beautiful, so alluring, so sexy, and so pleasing. I really don't find this to be like an overly skanky oud at all. Talking about performance, M7 on my skin, projection was excellent for the first 5 hours. Very strong projection. After the 5-hour mark, it sits a little bit more closer to the skin. It doesn't become a skin scent, but the scent cloud is quite moderate after the 5-hour mark. In terms of longevity, I get about 10 hours on my skin. In terms of seasons, this is a cool weather fragrance, so it's best worn during the fall and the winter. And for me, it's an evening, nighttime scent. I'd wear this as a casual night out or a formal night out, especially when you're dressed your best. This would work really well when you're dressed in a suit. It would also work really well as a date scent as well. Like I've said, this is a very alluring and sexy scent. Overall rating from me, M7 is going to get a perfect score of 5 out of 5. Just a very pleasing, smooth, ambery, woody scent with some cherry and tobacco. Superbly well made, so different for its time. It's a classic in the designer game. It's such a groundbreaking fragrance, one of the first ever oud fragrances from a Western house, especially a mainstream designer house. And it really paved the way for more oud fragrances to come out, especially from Western houses. Like I've said, the scent itself, so pleasing, great performance as well. It's just a groundbreaking designer release, so it gets a 5 out of 5 from me. So guys, that was my review of M7. What are your experiences with this scent? How did you feel about this review? Please leave me a like and a comment below, and make sure to subscribe as well. Until next time, see you later.